Today, the miniseries I will be presenting is The Pacific. Well, it tells true stories of three Marines fighting in the brutal Pacific theater during World War II. To begin with, let's check out the credits quickly. The Pacific is the 10-episode miniseries released on the 14th of March 2010. I want to highlight the release date because at that time the US was engaging with the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. So the audience, they could relate what was happening in the news to what was depicted in the series. Since the series is a companion piece to the successful miniseries Band of Brothers, many of the same team members worked behind the scenes of the Pacific. We have famous Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg as the executive producers, and we've got a lot of directors. Most of them are from the America and Canada. Well, the series is filmed in Australia. The same goes for the writers. We also have a lot of them. I want to highlight Bruce C. McKenna. He is also one of the chief writers of the Band of Brothers. Like I said before, the series tells the true stories, so it is mainly based on the two memoirs, with The Old Braid at Peleliu and Okinawa by Eugene Sledge, Hamlet for My Pillow by Robert Leckie. The two are actually the main characters. Additional sources are China Marine and Red Blood, again by Sledge, and Black Sand by Chuck Tatum. Tatum was once worked under Baslum, who is also one of the three main characters. So now let's go through the top cast to have a basic picture of the story. First we have James Badgedale. He played the role of Robert Leckie. Well, Leckie joined the Marine shortly after the attack on Pearl Harbor. He loved the girl, Vera, next to his door, but he didn't tell her because he didn't know he can make it alive from the battlefield. Well, he gone through many battles and suffered, but survived and returned to normal life with Vera. Then we have Joseph Mazzello. He played the role of Eugene Sledge. At the beginning, his doctor father didn't let him go because he didn't want his son to suffer both physically and mentally. But Sledge insisted, and he was indeed the one who underwent the most painful transformation. After the war, the trauma still haunted him. Last we have John Cedar, who played the famous American national hero, John Baslum. Baslum became a kind of celebrity after he was given the Medal of Honor and the Navy Cross, but he decided to go back to the battlefield until he met his tragic end. Okay, next I want to talk about gender roles and representation first. Obviously, the main characters dominate the series. It's kind of the societal division of labor during wartime. Men took the main combat responsibility in the war, and the media also played its part. They portrayed returning soldiers as heroes welcomed by the public, especially by young girls. Complexity and diversity of male characters. The series displayed the traditional masculinity of soldiers like bravery, strength, and fighting spirit, but it did reveal their vulnerability. I will further discuss that later. When it comes to female characters, well, there are quite a few. In the series, they have indirect involvement to the war. Most of them are stay at home actually. We do have women in the camp, but they don't engage with killing enemies. Our female characters in the series often related to the emotional world of male characters. For example, the girl Vera, Lecky kept writing to her, although actually he didn't send them, but Vera did serve as a guiding star during the darkness of war. And another girl with Lecky, again Stella, they have a short relationship. It gave Lecky a brief escape from the war. And also we have Virginia Gray. She is a beautiful actress. Well, in one scene, she and Baslum took pictures in front of press to show how the heroes are welcomed by the public. So you can see the female characters are basically portrayed as supportive and comforting roles. There is one exception, which is Sergeant Nana. When Baslum wants to gain her attention, she says, "Do you see the stripes? I'm an NCO just like you. I have work to do. LA is full of girls for a guy like you. She is not interested into Barcelona's fame and celebrity status at all from the beginning. Okay, let's talk about body issues. First is body and violence. Obviously, in this series, the body is subject to violence. There are so many disturbing and graphic scenes, such as the piles of mutilated, maggot-covered corpses scattered across the battlefield, to show how body is wounded by the violence of war. Even the body itself is dehumanized as war machine. This happens to everyone involved in the war. The Japanese army don't care their lives, whether to win or to die. Civilians on this island are forced as human shields and bombs by the Japanese, which is more common to see in today's terrorist attack. Characters like Sledge, once a young man full of duty and pride, becomes the very soldier, cynical and killing machine. And also his fellow Slaffel, he becomes even crueler than Sledge by taking gold teeth from dead Japanese soldiers, tossing stones into the scalp pan of Japanese soldier, which is quite terrifying. Next, we have body and trauma. Well, so faced with harsh natural conditions and unpredictable attacks, soldiers suffer a certain combat fatigue or stress. For example, Lecky suffered from nocturnal urisis, aka bedwetting, which is kind of embarrassing, but there is more harrowing and dehumanizing impact of the war on the soldiers. For example, once Lecky saw an officer commit suicide during their time on Pavuvu, because Pavuvu rains all the time, and the fellow of Lecky, he strangled a Japanese soldier with his bare hand and later broke down. The last time Lecky saw him was in hospital. He tried to steal a plane to go back to home, but failed, and he obviously completely lost the hope of life. Well, last, finally, we have the concept of PTSD. Well, it is not well documented on movies or documentaries from the World War II era or early Cold War era, because there is this good war narrative. Well, the enemy is clear, the goal is clear, so the soldiers won't suffer from any mental issues, which are more commonly associated with the Vietnam War. But the series tries to challenge that. Then we have this most heartbreaking thing, like Sledge's father said before, I don't want to look in your eyes someday and see no spark, no love, and no life. Well, it did happen to Sledge in the end. When his father took him shooting in the nearby woods, memories of war just flood back, and Sledge breaks down in his father's arms, and he finds himself unable to kill anymore, to carry guns, and haunted by the post-war trauma. So to conclude, gender issues in this miniseries centered on different gender roles and representation during wartime, and body issues focus on how war affects combatants both physically and mentally. Thank you for listening. And if you have more questions, just leave them in the comment sections.